You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 50. This week on the show, we celebrate our 50th episode, and we take a look back at our 2015-2016 waterfowl season. All right, welcome everyone to the 50th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Palm, and got a great episode lined up for you. Again, as it is our 50th episode, sort of a landmark and, something that we're real proud of. But unfortunately, I got some bad news to kind of start off the show in that this week it's just going to be me. Dan has got some things going on and just wasn't able to make it, available to record. And we just didn't want to wait any longer to get you guys another episode, being that the end of the season was kind of just sort of a busy time for us, and we didn't get to put out an episode like we wanted to. So we decided to just kind of go ahead and have me do it on my own, and hopefully we'll have Dan back for the next episode. But nonetheless, this is sort of a landmark episode for us being our 50th, and I will do my best to serve it justice. Probably a slightly abbreviated show today, just because it's going to be me, and you don't have Dan to weigh in on the things that I'm going to cover this week, but do have some really great stuff that we're going to talk about, and kind of, as I mentioned in the roll-in, going to kind of take a look back at the 2015-2016 year waterfowl hunting. It'll be my perspective, kind of on some of the things that I learned and some of the takeaways, and just some sort of kind of things that I'll file away for next year and for future years. So I know a lot of guys probably do that on their own when they look back on their hunting season. So I'll share a little bit of my thoughts about this past season with you as well. One thing I did want to talk about, though, for anyone that's interested in following the show, you can check us out at hpoutdoors.com, on iTunes, obviously, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, all the social media sites. One particular area that we spend a lot of time is at the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast listeners group on Facebook. And if you're a member in there, you know that we're pretty open and pretty receptive to feedback and ideas and, just sort of things that come up in that group. And we try to implement as much as we can into the show. And, being a show of the people, by the people, and for the people, there was a ground movement that took place in there recently, and pretty sweepingly got approved and created a little change to the show that we feel obligated to enforce, because it was that of the people. And that movement was a grassroots effort to change Dan's nickname to Minivan Dan. And for those of you who've listened to this show for a while, you know that Dan drives a minivan. He claims it's his wife's vehicle, but we know better than that. And these grassroots efforts just sort of spring up, and once the ball starts rolling and the momentum starts going, there's not really much you can do to stop it. So we feel obliged, or I feel obliged, to honor the voice of the people. And it's been said that Minivan Dan is now what he will be known as. And unfortunately, he's not here to provide his feedback, but I'm interested to hear what he has to say when he hears this episode air. So again, a show of the people and by the people for the people. So we get a little bit of kick out of that. So this week, I'm going to talk a little bit about, like I said, the 2015-2016 year review. I'm going to cover some waterfowl news. It's one of those things where we haven't been on for a while, so there's some pretty big things that have happened that I want to cover. Not going to really have some of the other segments that we typically have. We're not going to have an HP question this week, and we're not going to have a retriever training quick tip from Barton, Southern Oak Kennels this week. But fear not, we're going to have that stuff kind of moving forward. As I mentioned, we've just been super busy, and we've been dealing kind of with a lot of stuff. And hopefully my voice sounds okay. I've actually been kind of down with some sickness here the last couple of days, so I'm on the rebound here myself. But we wanted to get something out just because we hadn't put anything out in a while. So I'm going to do my best to power through this one. And why don't we go ahead and I'll get into some waterfowl news for you. All right. Probably the biggest story to kind of start this off is the fire that was recently at the R&T shop down there in Arkansas. R&T Calls is one of the one of the most iconic brands and most recognizable names in the waterfowl industry. And whether you choose to use their calls or not, it's hard for anyone to kind of dispute the impact that they've had on the industry and, sort of their place in the market as one of the leaders. And, they essentially had a fire that more or less gutted their shop. And, as far as I know, thankfully no one was hurt. But obviously, a lot of inventory and machinery and, things like that are lost in that effort. And, I know they're rebuilding and, they're going to be back online, but for a while they had to shut down orders and, stuff like that just to try to gather themselves and get back in business. So, obviously we wish the best for the guys down at R&T and, it's a real humbling thing. It's hard to believe that a company like that's at the pinnacle of the industry, has a major setback like that. And, fortunately enough for R&T, I think that they're the kind of company that can bounce back from this, stronger than ever. So, they got a lot of great people down there and, the support of the waterfowl community, I'm sure will lift them up. And, we're looking forward to getting, the R&T shop back in business and, better than ever. So, unfortunate news kind of out of Stuttgart there. But, hopefully a brighter days ahead for the R&T crew. Speaking of, waterfowl companies and, a partner of this show, a company that's near and dear to us is the guys over at Higdon Outdoors, recently announced that they've, established a corporate partnership with Ducks Unlimited. So, Higdon will now be producing officially licensed Ducks Unlimited merchandise, which whenever you purchase one of those products, a percentage of that sale is going to go to waterfowl conservation. So, this is huge. This is a great thing, not only in the sense that, it shows the Higdon place in the market and, stands for the products and things that they offer. Obviously, for an organization as large as Ducks Unlimited to partner with them, goes to say something, about the products that they offer, but also just the additional revenue that this is going to produce, for waterfowl conservation, is huge. And we've talked about this in the past. I won't buy a product simply because it's got the DU logo on it, but if all things are equal and I'm kind of flipping a coin, I do pay attention to that stuff, and maybe not everyone does, but I do. So, I was really excited to see that. And, hopefully, that just means, more great opportunities for Higdon down the road. And, I know they've got a lot of great product lineup coming out for this year. So I'm really excited to see, how they kind of parlay into this into a big 2016 season for them. A lot of industry news going on here, right now, but, another company that's, near and dear to us as well, DeLorme, was recently purchased by Garmin. And I mean, obviously we've raved about DeLorme and the, Earthmade app and, the products that they have and how we utilize those all the time during our scouting and throughout the season. When you talk about a company like Garmin coming in and making that purchase, these are the biggest names in this space. And, I'm really excited for what this is going to mean for, the innovation and just the collaboration between the two coming together under one roof. A lot of times you see really great strides and things happen out of these types of marriages. So, really excited to see what comes out of that. And, definitely we'll be tuning in, throughout this summer to see if there's anything, that comes out of that for the waterfowl focused, hunter or, hunters in general. So, a lot of big news kind of happening along the industry front, but to step away from the industry side of the business here for a minute, I was recently reading through a magazine and I saw a pretty cool article that talks about a program that's coming out of the state of Utah. And basically, Utah is going to kind of capitalize on the sense that waterfowl hunters are obsessed with bands. I mean, we all love, harvesting a bird with a band on it and all that kind of stuff. That's undeniable. But for now in Utah, hunters can sign up for a program that's pretty inexpensive. I mean, it's under, the article references as less than a cost of a duck stamp. But basically, you can sign up and receive bands from the state for achieving different goals. Like an example would be if you would achieve the puddler slam, which is shooting one drake of 8 different species over the course of the season, they'll send you a band to put on your lanyard. So kind of a cool deal, I think. And there's a lot of different things that you can, that you can do. Another one is they call it the greenhead slam, where you shoot 7 greenheads in one day. So I think it's kind of cool that they're going to take advantage of the fact that we all love bands, but more importantly, this, in my opinion, encourages hunter participation. I mean, this is really what it's all about. It's about getting guys to buy duck stamps and getting guys to buy hunting licenses and getting out in the field and taking their kids with them and growing the sport and, all of those things that goes into this. This is just another way that's a little bit of an incentive that if you want to, participate, you can get into it. So I know if I was in Utah, I would totally do this. I really hope other states kind of pick this up. I think it's a great idea, especially, if you're talking about getting youth hunters involved, and if there's ways, more simpler kind of tasks that they might be able to check off by getting their first drake or their first, species or what have you. I think it's just a really cool idea, and it's a low cost initiative that can just, sort of help out and kind of build that recruitment of, not only, younger hunters, but, even the ones that have been around for a while. I mean, everybody likes a challenge. A lot of people are competitive, and, I'd much rather, have control over these bands and, pursuing these endeavors versus, you're on a goose hunt and there's 8 of you and one band shows up and everyone just starts fighting because, there's just no way that guy, didn't shoot it because he says he shot it. Well, but you may think that you had the beat on that bird, and when you squeeze the trigger, it dropped. But, who really knows how it all works out? But this is a cool way to kind of avoid the conflict and, create a little more pride in your lanyard and things like that, because depending on where you hunt, shooting banded birds isn't all that common. So it's kind of nice to have other avenues to be able to add some decoration to your lanyard. So that's what I got this week for the waterfowl news. If you got any other stories I missed, send them over to us on Facebook or something like that, and we'll be happy to share those with everyone on our Facebook group. And I'm sure there's many that I probably missed, being that we haven't been on for a while, but those are kind of the big ones that sort of caught my eye as I was doing a little prep for this week's show. So let's go ahead and move on, and I'll get into sort of the main part of the show, and I'll talk a little bit about my 2015-2016 sort of year in review. So I got to be honest with you, I had really, really high hopes for the 2015-2016 year. The year before this and the year prior to that one were both pretty good for me in the sense of getting on birds and being able to have a pretty consistent harvest. Last year, our best push of birds was in kind of the late November split for us. And then we got another good push kind of right at the end of the season in January. So we had a lull in the push, but it wasn't terrible. And we were still able to get on a few geese and stuff like that. So we had cold weather, though, and it was better than what we had seen sort of a couple years before that, where it had been just dreadful and very warm and virtually no migration. So I was really kind of hoping that this year would be the same. A lot of the weather forecasts were kind of iffy. Sometimes you'd see someone saying, well, because of El Nino, it's going to be really warm and this, that, and the other. And then others you would see, record snowfall this year and all that kind of stuff. And I'm speaking pretty much to my area here, the Mid-Atlantic area and Virginia specifically. So, I kind of had high hopes that, we were going to look out again and, I was going to be able to get out on the river and kind of target some divers and have really good hunts. And, before the season opened, we've got a 4-day early season for ducks in the first week of October that I didn't really hunt much because I had some stuff going on out of town. But then we opened back up sort of mid-November, and I was kind of really getting amped up for that. And, scouting a week or so before the season, we had lots of ducks around, tons of gadwalls, mallards, just a lot of wood ducks, a lot of good ducks around. So I was really, really excited that it was going to be, a really good hunt right from the start this season. And boy, I couldn't have been more wrong. It was like the light, just got shut off in that week before the Saturday before the season, and then the Saturday opener that I went out, because it was terrible weather, virtually no birds around, and it was just very, very, very slow hunting. We were able to get on a few decent hunts, but it was really because we had a couple spots where we just patterned some birds and, really kind of, had them patterned. So we were able to get some good hunts, on those. But as far as new birds coming in to replenish those, it just really wasn't happening. So it was really, really hard and kind of a struggle for a while. And, it's unfortunate when I look back on the season, but, my best diver hunt really was Thanksgiving Day. I mean, that, when we have a duck season that runs through the end of January, it's depressing to think that, that your best diver hunt of the year is going to be in November. But, unfortunately, that's the way it kind of worked out this year. And, here in Virginia, it was mild most of the year. And then, we, kind of what I was hoping, to happen this year that happened last year is we get that good push of, canvasbacks, redheads, and bluebills kind of that last 2-3 weeks of the season. And, we're watching the weather really closely and it was calling for cold weather. So we were getting excited. And, the first of the year comes and goes and, the weather starts turning cold and all of a sudden we start seeing this forecast of just this epic snowstorm that's supposed to hit. And, I'm kind of torn because I'm excited that we're going to have cold weather, but at the same time, I realize how bad the snow can be as far as this area and being able to get out and hunt at all. And unfortunately, the fear, my worst fears were confirmed. We essentially got, I think at my house, we got like 30 to 32 inches basically over a weekend. And it just basically landlocked everything. Plows couldn't get through. We were, I wasn't able to leave the house for a couple days. It got cold and all the water locked up, even the big river where we're hunting divers. So we weren't able to get out on the water. And that pretty much put an end to the diver hunting right there. I mean, in ducks in general, all of our water froze up and birds moved out and, that's just kind of all it took. And unfortunately, I was really kind of disappointed. I mean, I only really got to set my diver spread a couple times this year. So we kind of switched focuses and we started, targeting geese because we did have some geese around and we were able to get on a couple decent hunts and stuff like that. But, it just was really kind of a, you really hope for that, go out with a bang kind of season. And we did go out on a bang on one particular goose hunt, but for the most part, it was a pretty much a fizzle to the end of my 2016 or 2015, 2016 season. But, I learned a lot this year and, I'd like to share a couple things that I learned and, I'll definitely be able to apply these for next year. But, the number one thing I learned was, and we talk about this a lot, but scouting still matters. Scouting is king and it's the number one thing. I talked about it. If we hadn't scouted a lot and knew where a couple pockets of ducks were, our early season would have been a complete disaster. I mean, we got on a couple good hunts because we knew where birds were. But if it wasn't for that, I mean, we would have been really in trouble because our normal spots where we would go to, hunt migratory birds or bigger waters and stuff like that, they just were not holding ducks. So we were forced to go back to the backwaters and ponds and beaver swamps and things like that to where we knew held some birds and we were able to manage a couple hunts. So, we talk about it a lot and really can't underscore it enough that, the scouting is still super important. And it's especially important when the weather's tough and you don't have a lot of birds coming in. And kind of to tab onto that, the migration matters. When you're talking hunting, especially on the East Coast, I mean, and it affects everywhere, but we have a few less birds out here. So obviously the migration is key for us. When I'm looking up north and I'm not seeing any cold weather and you're seeing water open in Canada and upstate New York and areas like that, Finger Lakes regions of New York, stuff like that, birds are not going to move down here in time for your seat before your season closes out. That's exactly what happened. All the cold weather came at one time and just locked up everything, and the birds just bypassed us essentially. Say for some Canada geese that we were able to do okay on, but the way that Dan and I's positions are is he's up there kind of near Lake Erie. And, I kind of use him as a gauge, as far as what the migration's doing. And if there's not birds, if he's not seeing birds moving through their area, I know we're not going to be seeing them for the most part. So, unfortunately, that's kind of the way it played out. And the migration is the one thing that you cannot control, unfortunately. And when it's going to be years like this, you just got to kind of hope that, the birds have a great recruitment cycle and they're able to, have a good hatch and, build the numbers up so it's even better year next year whenever, hopefully we get a little bit better weather and we can have, great opportunities the following year. Something else I learned this year is that I have a healthy addiction for bands. There's no doubt. I shot my first my first banded wood duck. I shot it on the only day that I hunted in that early October season. Actually had 2 banded wood ducks out of that particular hunt. But, I've been on a bunch of hunts where I've seen a lot of bands get killed and, most of them are group hunts and, it's kind of hard to argue with somebody over a band with, I don't know if I shot it or not or whatever, but this was on a hunt with just me and one other guy. And now, was able to clearly know who shot and all that kind of stuff. And it was just very cool. So it's one of those things where, people can say they don't care about bands and all that stuff. And that's fine. Maybe you don't. I do. I don't mind telling you. I do. I think it's a cool deal. I think it's cool how they track the life cycle of the bird and the migratory patterns and all that kind of stuff. It's just what makes duck hunting and goose hunt, waterfowl in general. It's what makes it different to me than say deer hunting or something like that. When I can pull data on that bird and learn about its history and where it was banded and at what age and how far it migrated and all that kind of stuff, that is just really, really cool. And it's more than just a hunt for me, so, and kind of like to tab onto that, I've participated in the Department of the Interior's waterfowl study where I've been sending in the wing clippings and the tail feathers from the birds that I harvested this year. So I'm anxiously waiting that report to come back to show me, sort of the age demographic of the birds that I shot this year. And I'll be sure to share that with you guys when I get that. So, just cool stuff about duck hunting and waterfowl hunting in general that for the most part you don't really get to experience with, with deer. I mean, yeah, you can age a deer by its jawbone or, if it's tagged or something, you find out some information about that. But, you're not going to see you're not going to know if a deer's traveled, a couple miles away. I mean, obviously they're not traveling several states away like birds are and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. For me, it's just another piece of the hunt that is just a very cool experience and something that I really like. My final kind of takeaway of this year is that, diver hunting is still my passion. I mean, it's just the number one thing that I look forward to doing when it comes to the waterfowl season. I look back on this year and, my buddy Carlos and I got permission to hunt on a spot this year that, it's just a complete honey hole. Early season September geese, 10 birds per man. We shot a 2-man limit in about an hour. And we're just, we just had a great hunt. Couldn't have went better. And that was fantastic. We hunted that spot again, had another great, a couple more great shoots on geese throughout the season. Shot some great puddle duck action this year, got on some black ducks. But at the end of the day, I didn't shoot that many divers this year, but the divers that I did shoot, those are the ones that I look back on and I think about, how cool that hunt was. And I shot a bufflehead drake, that I've got in the freezer that I plan to mount. It's just just a stud of a duck. I didn't shoot many bluebills this year, maybe just a handful. But I can remember the group of 3 that buzzed our decoys on the coldest morning that I hunted of the year. And when that one turned and flew right towards the blind and I folded him up in the spread, I can see that in my mind's eye right now. And I relive that more and more, more so than I've ever relived shooting a goose or shooting any other kinds of ducks. It's those diver ducks for whatever reason. It just gets me going. And, that's one thing that I take away from this year. I like to hunt everything. I like to hunt all kinds of waterfowl, but for me, it's divers. And I wonder if everyone else has that same thing. Do you have that one thing that just gets you going a little bit more than maybe something else? Maybe it's mallards in the timber, or it's specks over the rice fields, or, whatever your thing is, is that something that everyone has, or am I kind of on an island here? My gut tells me that everyone's got something like that, whatever it is, you've got one aspect of the hunt that kind of gets you charged up a little more than the others. And for me, without a doubt, it's diver hunting. I would bring up the Facebook group again, but if you're a member in there, you know that I harass Dan a lot about diver hunting because all he does is send me pictures of, the lake that I grew up on, of redheads and canvasbacks and, bluebills and all these other kinds of ducks just knotting up in the water. And he doesn't hunt divers that much. And, or at all, I should say. And I keep telling him that he needs to get a diver spread and he needs to get out there and start chasing those, because up there along the shores of Lake Erie, when the push is on, you get some world-class diver hunting up there. And I think I've finally broken him down far enough to where he's, going to embrace it hopefully for this next year. And I've kind of taken the Donald Trump technique with him and telling him to make diver hunting great again, kind of as a joke. But, it's just one of those things where the action's fast. The birds typically decoy easy. It's a numbers game. I love setting long lines. It's so much easier, so much more efficient. I don't have to put them in slotted bags, just kind of throw them in there. I hunt over the foam filled Higdon so I can shoot into them. I don't have to worry about sinking decoys. All of that stuff is just, it's just nothing but positives to me. So, if you give me one thing that I have to hunt, I'm going to pick that every time. But, hopefully everyone out there kind of takes away the something from each season and looks back on it and, remembers that. And, what else do we have to get us through to the next year is just the memories that we make from, this year and the seasons past. And, it seems like my diver hunts are the ones that I tend to kind of keep coming back to and, revisit in my mind's eye. So, definitely something that I'll hold with me throughout this off season. And as I look forward to hopefully a better diver hunting season, next year. But obviously a lot of that will still depend on the weather. If you've got some things that you look back on the 2015, 2016 season and kind of think fondly of, or you learned from, or, you just maybe aren't real happy with the way it worked out, share that stuff with us. We'd like to hear from you. You can send us an email at info@hpoutdoors.com. Shoot us a message at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on all that stuff, as I mentioned. We love to hear your guys' stories. And, as I mentioned, we're just like you guys. And, I know that there's guys out there that love diver hunting as much as I do. And, love honker hunting in the corn as much as Dan does and all that kind of stuff. So share your experiences with us and your memories and help us get through this off season period. And, I call it the off season, but really, as we've mentioned on this show before, there's really no off season. At this point, as I'm looking forward to next year, my good hunting buddy's talking about, buying a boat so we can do a little more diver hunting in open water. So, if he does that, we're going to have a lot of summer projects, getting the blind ready for that and getting that all up to speed. I'm always building my diver spread, re-rigging decoys, getting stuff cleaned up, getting put away this time of year. But always at this time of year is when I seem to pick up the calls more. During the season, it seems like I don't practice much during the week, so I'm using them on the weekends. This time of year, I pick them up more during the week when I'm in the vehicle, stuff like that, going to from work, practicing, and, not so much on the weekends when I'm with my son or with my wife. So, all of that kind of stuff keeps me busy and keeps me going. And, time to get that honey-do list around the house knocked out. And, my son's starting T-ball this year, so I'm coaching this team. So, taking that aspect on and all that good stuff. So definitely keeping me busy and hopefully getting some time to do some fly fishing and, keeping up with the show and, all that kind of stuff. So definitely enough to keep me going, through the off season. So as I mentioned, share with us what you got. What do you look back on this past season? Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. Let us know. And, we'd love to share it with everyone else. All right, as I mentioned, a couple less segments this week, unfortunately, and a little bit of a shorter episode. But I do want to just touch on a couple things here before we kind of close out the show. And the first one is I'm looking through my Twitter timeline here as I'm doing the show. I just saw news of Nancy Reagan's passing, and I don't really want to do the whole politics bit on the show and all that kind of stuff. But Nancy Reagan was a grace personified as the first lady. And, President Reagan's been, dead for quite a long time now. I think he passed away in 2004, if I recall. So, I'm glad that they're together again. And, President Reagan was a great president, in my opinion. And, she was a great first lady as well. And, it just reminds me of, the political climate that we're in, today. And, obviously, regardless of your affiliation or your beliefs, make sure you go out, vote. Primaries are going on right now. If you don't go out and make your voice heard, you really don't have you don't have any leg to stand on if you're unhappy with the way things are going in the country. So take advantage of your right to vote. Get out there and make your voice heard. And if you want to see change, that's the first place to start. Okay, enough politics. The last thing I just wanted to spend just a couple minutes on here is the fact that this is the 50th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. And 50 episodes, when you look in the grand scheme of podcasters in general, and folks that do this for a living, it isn't a real big number, and I get that. But for Dan and I, we don't do this for a living. We don't do this for literally any compensation. We do it because we like to do it. We do it because we love waterfowl hunting. We like the relationships that the show has formed for us, the people that we meet, the discussions that we have, the things that we learn, the people that we get to help. All of that kind of stuff is really, really important to us, and is why we do the show. So for us, 50 episodes is a very big deal. The time that it takes, can't be understated. And, we get the emails and we see everyone's positive feedback, and we really do appreciate it. And I just want to thank everybody for kind of bearing with us here as we've sort of shifted a little bit here this year, and kind of gone back to the monthly monthly release to kind of keep our sanity and try to keep that balance of, keeping everybody happy at home and keeping us manageable and not being burnt out with doing the show, because we do love to do the show. But, obviously at times it can become a little bit burdensome when it's, the amount of work that just goes into it. So we do appreciate everyone's support, and we will continue to bring you the show. Throughout the off season, we'll be touching in periodically, on a monthly basis to kind of keep everybody up to date as to what's going on and what we're up to and things of that nature. And, hopefully you guys will stay communicating with us and let us know what's going on. And, we've worked really hard to get to where we're at, in the sense that, we're sort of one of the leaders in the waterfowl podcasting niche, if you will. And, we worked really hard to get here, and we're not about to just kind of give it up and kind of fade away. So we appreciate everybody's support. We're going to continue to keep doing the best that we can. I look back over the history of the show. I mean, 50 episodes, as I mentioned, is peanuts compared to, the Joe Rogans of the world and, the other podcasters that do this all the time. But when you look back on our episodes and let's take it, for instance, the guests that we've had on the show. You look back and we've had Kelly Powers, Sean Stahl, and I know I'm going to miss, a bunch here because I'm having kind of brain freeze, but Tony Vandermeer, I know there's more. I'm obviously having a complete brain lapse here, but those are some of the ones that kind of come to mind immediately. And when we first started out, when we were trying to book guests, we just said, hey, we're going to take a shot in the dark and see what happens. And we went after the biggest names in the industry. And you know what? For the most part, they've been overwhelmingly receptive. And we've had some great opportunities to chat with some really cool guys, get some great information for the show. And hopefully you guys enjoyed all that. And we're really proud of being able to do that. So, again, thank you for everything. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. I apologize that this week's episode is a little bit shorter. I know we've kept you guys waiting, but I promise the next episode we will be back in full force. Myself, Minivan, Dan, will deliver a full quality episode that will be just like old times. And for all you guys that are still hunting snow geese out there, send us your pictures. Send us some info, because Dan and I are starting to get the snow goose itch. So we need to get out after some snow geese. So if you got good hunts and you know how to do it, hit us up. We might be looking to join you on a hunt or something like that. So if you got two more, room for a couple more guys, let us know. All right, before I get out of here, let me just take a second to thank everyone that is supportive of the show. Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear just came out with the new timber pattern. If you're hunting the timber areas, definitely check that out. Sport Ear, you can go to Sport Ear's website, utilize the HB Outdoors discount code for 10% off your purchase. DeLorme, obviously those guys have been very, very, very supportive of the show, incredibly kind to us. We encourage you guys to to always support them. And in even the transition into Garmin, the Earthmate app is still a fantastic product. Definitely encourage you guys to check that out. Higdon Outdoors and Big Al Silhouette Decoys. We appreciate all of them and their support of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. All right, guys, that's it. Episode 50 is in the book. Hope you guys enjoyed hearing me talk about my 2015-2016 season. Obviously, there was some ups and downs, but there's some things that I'll take through the off season that'll help me be a better hunter next year. Hopefully, you've got a similar experience, and that can make you for a better hunter for next year. Hang in there. We'll be back in a month or so. Dan and I will be back full strength and delivering you the episodes that you're used to hearing. So thanks for tuning in. For Dan, I'm Josh. Till next time, take care.